This is a review for the Eufy RoboVac 15C Max. The 15C Max's airflow was measured at 17 CFM. Its suction was measured at 1.31 kPa. In our carpet stress test, the 15C Max picked up all debris types very well. The 15C Max, like most other Eufy robot vacuums, has a fairly narrow, direct cleaning path, as its brushroom compartment is only 5.75 inches wide. But with the help of its side brushes and repeated movement over the same area, it was able to clean up well in this test over time. In our carpet deep clean test, the 15C Max picked up only 4 grams of debris after 3 passes over an area of carpet embedded with 30 grams of fine debris. In our hard floor stress test, the 15C Max once again picked up all debris types very well. Like most other robot vacuums, it kicks around a lot of debris with its side brushes on hard floors, but with repeated movement and good edge cleaning, it was able to eventually pick up most debris in this test very well. Taking a closer look at edge performance, we see the robot having 2 movement types that make it especially good at cleaning edges. First, it approaches a lot of edges head on. Second, it does this back and forth movement against edges, which is also very good for cleaning them. In our robot vacuum crevice test, the 15C Max did not perform well on default power. It did perform considerably better on maximum power, but even after extensive runtime, it still could not pull much of the debris out of the crevice used for this test. In our human hair pickup test, the 15C Max picked up all the hair, but most of that hair wasn't pulled into its dustbin. More than 90% of the hair it picked up tangled around its side brushes and around its brush roll and had to be cleaned off manually. In our pet hair pickup test, the 15C Max performed much better. It picked up and collected all the shorter pet hair used for this test in its dustbin. We tested the vacuum's cleaning efficiency and coverage in 2 different environments, an empty room and a cluttered room. The 15C Max is a random pathing robot, and in our empty room testing, we see its random cleaning pattern demonstrated quite well. This test also shows very even coverage in an empty room. In our cluttered room testing, we again see a fairly random cleaning pattern, and we again see mostly even coverage throughout the whole room. The robot does move the chair frame quite a bit over time, but this was a common issue among random pathing robots we tested that got good, proper coverage underneath the chair frame. All of them moved the chair frame quite a bit as they bounced around to clean underneath it. Other important specifications and test results we considered for this review are summarized here. Note especially how there are no boundary accessories like a magnetic strip, for example, included with the 15C Max or available for purchase for it separately. Also note the 15C Max's runtime, bin volume, and noise output, and how those specifications and test results compare to the average for all of the random pathing robots we've tested so far. Lastly, note the robot's diameter and height. These dimensions make the 15C Max one of the smaller robot vacuums we've tested. Moving on to what we like and dislike about this vacuum, first let's talk about what we like. The 15C Max's airflow, and especially its suction, is better than that of most other random pathing robots in the same price range. It picks up most debris types very well. It also cleans edges very well. It has good coverage. It has solid battery life, a good sized bin, and below average noise output. It's also small, which allows it to fit in between and underneath a lot of different types of furniture. Moving on to what we dislike about the 15C Max, it performed poorly in our carpet deep clean performance testing, and it also performed poorly in our human hair pickup testing. It picked up hair well enough, but most of that hair that it picked up tangled around its side brushes and around its brush roll, instead of getting pulled all the way through into its dustbin. Lastly, we also don't like the fact that there are no boundary options available for this robot vacuum. Before we get to general recommendations, we first need to compare the 15C Max to other Eufy robot vacuums. Compared to the 15C Max has more raw power and a different filter. Otherwise, except for some aesthetic differences, it's all but identical to the 15C. We didn't test the 15C, but we did test the 11S, which has the same raw power and filter as the 15C. And we didn't see any difference in real-world performance between the 11S and the 15C Max. So we think it's safe to say the same would be true for the 15C versus the 15C Max. So if you're torn between the 15C and the 15C Max, we would recommend the 15C, as it should provide very similar real-world performance to the 15C Max at a usually much lower price. Compared to the 11S and 11S Max, The 15C Max can be controlled via an app, while the 11S and 11S Max cannot. Otherwise, the 15C Max is essentially identical, at least in terms of real-world performance, to the 11S and 11S Max. Between the 11S and 11S Max and the 15C and 15C Max, we would go with the 11S, as it's usually the cheapest, unless you value app control. In that case, go with the 15C. If you want to set physical boundaries for your robot vacuum, you do need to upgrade to the 30 series. All 30 series RoboVacs should offer very similar performance to the 15C Max otherwise. Get the 30 if you don't need app control. Get the 30C if you do want app control. Compared to models from other brands, the 15C Max is definitely in the upper tier of random pathing robots we tested. Eufy makes some of the best random pathing robots we tested, and the 15C Max is one of those robots. Which specific Eufy you get really just depends on your budget and which specific features are most important to you. The 15C Max gives you excellent raw performance and app control. If that's worth its price to you, it's a good option. Otherwise, there are better options available, as I mentioned earlier. See the description of this video for links to all the robot vacuums we recommend, and thank you for watching.